Joining us now to discuss Bitcoin price and more is CoinDesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Hello there, Galen. All right, so let's talk about Bitcoin. We're seeing a bit of a pullback, a bit of a pause. Tell me about some of the macro factors that may be impacting the price.
You know, I think the most salient one that jumps out this week, Christine, is the dollar index, a strong dollar. You look at the dollar index going up a full point, and it kind of coincides with Bitcoin price going down starting on Monday. You know, there are a number of other things happening on the week: China enforcement, India regulatory moves. Some disappointment over Taproot. That last one in particular, I think is
disappointment over Taproot. Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, I mean, Taproot's very interesting, and we could talk about it. But
what do you mean disappointment over Taproot? I mean, I saw a lot of celebrations over the weekend, so
I've seen a mix, I guess. I think there's a sense of maybe like sort of some sense of, okay, this isn't going to necessarily, say, for example, bring DeFi onto Bitcoin. And, if you sort of, if that was something that you were banking on, then I think you will be disappointed. Look, I think, any notion that a sort of a sag with Taproot is kind of predicated on the notion that the market actually understands what Taproot can do for Bitcoin in the first place. And I think there's too much complexity and misinformation to think of it that way. Right. I think, look, most of the other things we saw that were Bitcoin specific kind of happened after the price move began. So, it does seem like a kind of a strong dollar narrative. But, look, backing out last week, we saw a day in which Bitcoin seemed to move with gold against the stock market, running up alongside the inflation consumer price index news, before falling back as the narrative switched to money supply concerns. This week, Bitcoin seems to be moving with the dollar again. I mean, against the dollar again, but also, on its own beat with regards to stock and gold. Both stocks and gold are both nearly flat for the week so far. And, Bitcoin's down, started the day down 6.25%.
A bit now. Out of today's news, we saw that Crypto.com and that $700 deal with the Staples Center, a huge deal. I see the Matt Damon Crypto.com ads everywhere. It seems like you can't escape a crypto ad while walking on the street in New York, at least. Meanwhile, India has huge headwinds. I mean, the crypto exchanges there are actually taking their ads off the air. And in China, there's a bit more enforcement regulatory-wise where crypto exchanges and trading platforms and mining are concerned. Maybe you could dive into, weigh in on that kind of that very different approach to how different countries are accepting crypto exchanges, Bitcoin, and the industry at large.
Look, I think regulatory hostility in China and India has got to be something that the market understands pretty well at this point. I feel like the news out of India was actually pretty positive. You have a clear path for speculative use of Bitcoin, if not payments. I feel like that should be a green light for investors who are thinking about speculative adoption in the BRICS. So I'm not sure I see a huge problem there. Mm-hmm. Having to cut back the ads is probably puts the brakes on something, but at the same time, you no longer have this environment where there's a question about whether you're going to have
just another quick point is the differences among Twitter C-suite executives. Twitter's CFO in Asia is saying that, no, we're not going to have a Bitcoin on the balance sheet, but I mean, Jack Dorsey's all about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, again, that comes after the downturn. And I mean, I think we are in a macro environment with Bitcoin. The problem is it's this kind of unusually sensitive and fickle barometer, right? It's a consensus on fundamental metrics and macro effects has yet to emerge. So one week you've got investors moving the market on a global risk on narrative. The next, it's another group of investors, or perhaps the same group, moving it on an inflation narrative. The following week, it's a strong dollar narrative that's pushing the price. I think we're in a time where crisis is threatening from all sides. Military tension in China, between China and Taiwan, military tension at the EU border, Chinese property marketing crisis. Iran is 1 month away from a nuclear weapon. Afghanistan is destabilized. The COVID threat is on the rise again globally. So look, this barometer function,
The world's on fire, Galen.
It may be, the world is like kind of potentially about to be on fire in some ways, it seems. And I think change, this kind of moving with the wind, one wind one week, another wind another week, is kind of maybe in a way a useful function of Bitcoin. It's not this, oh well, Bitcoin is this risk on asset and we can read it that way, or Bitcoin is this inflation hedge and we can read it that way. It's a different narrative every week, and it kind of tends to shift with whatever the predominant narrative in the market is.